Hey, what's up, everybody? The VC here, coming back at you with another It's About Anything and Everything, and nothing's off the table. I'm just off the cuff. And you can find me on YouTube, and you can find me on Rumble, as I like to double post. That way you can catch me wherever is more convenient for you. Rumble will probably be slightly better because it's uncensored. Like, it doesn't censor me from the things I do and say. Sometimes YouTube may censor me because I might, um, even though it's fair use, they still like to cut content and all that stuff. And maybe they'll wake up from being woke one day, you know what I'm saying? Because, we are in California. That's where YouTube's from. And so we'll see. One of these days. One of these days. Anyhow, let's get to it here. It's about anything and everything. Without further ado, lots of things have been talked about, right? We talked about last couple days. Actually, yesterday I covered about Eric Adams and how these sanctuary states slash cities are being targeted right now by Trump and the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Because if they're not going to play ball, then they're getting sued basically for not following federal government orders, right? So they're not following federal government orders. They're breaking the rules. They're breaking the laws. They're aiding and abetting. I mean, that's just simply what it is. Eric Adams, at least, is appearing to be playing ball, but I think he's doing that to save that ass, all right? Because, it's his career, his reputation, and it's a difference between spending time behind bars, because obviously he's still a corrupt individual, or biting the bullet, so to speak, and play ball with Trump, and then Trump will be, play it by fair gamesmanship and drop charges. That's kind of being held over Eric Adams right now in New York. And so that's where things are standing right now. And so let's see here. It says this would be a very bad move for Kathy Hochul, New York Attorney warns. So let's see what they're talking about here. Hochul's garbage. She's just as bad as Gavin Newsom being governor in
Introducing
California.
the hide and seek
Straight
from Bell
garbage, right? When it comes to
a traditional wallet.
being governor in New York with Hochul there. She's straight garbage. So let's see what they got to say here.
To dismiss corruption charges brought against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, the mayor telling Fox and Friends yesterday that all claims of any immigration quid pro quo were false.
Think about my attorney, Alex Spira, one of the top trial attorneys in the country.
Right.
Imagine him going inside saying that the only way Mayor Adams is going to assist in immigration, which I was calling for since 2022, right, is if you drop the charges. That's quid pro quo. That's a crime. It took her 3 weeks to report in front of her a criminal action. Right. Come on, this is silly.
Joining us now to discuss is Rebecca Rose Woodland.
It's desperate, too, if others are calling for that, especially Democrats. It's just desperate. Like, Democrats are desperate right now, and they're just looking to throw any egg in the face to Trump because Trump is just dominating right now ever since he came out of the gates after being sworn in for president now for almost a month. It's closing in on a month real soon. And Eric Adams, although he's a Democrat, all right, but he's trying to play ball with Trump at least. And Democrats are not liking that. Fellow Democrats of Eric Adams are not liking that because anytime a Democrat tries to ask questions, try to go against the grain, guess what happens? They just throw you out to the wolves, right? They really banish you from their cult. Look at Lindy Lee. All right, they banish you, and that's what they did with her. They banished her.
A trial attorney based in New York So great to see you, Rebecca. So just to sort of bring everybody up to speed on this, the allegation, the theory is that DOJ agreed to drop charges against federal corruption charges against Eric Adams in exchange for him cooperating on immigration enforcement.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So in exchange for Eric Adams doing his job, which is allowing the federal government and now President Trump, who now runs this country, coming in saying, I don't want illegal immigrants in this country, and I want to deport those who we choose, who we find are criminals, or for whatever reason ICE decides should not be here. So you're telling me that President Donald Trump made a deal with Eric Adams. He's the mayor of a city. The president of the United States had to beg him to do his job. It is ridiculous.
Well, but obviously there are a lot of cities run by a lot of mayors who are not doing their jobs and are clearly working to circumvent federal laws about immigration. But let me ask you about this. So a bunch of federal prosecutors quit in response to all that. What do you make of their actions?
Well, they quit. Were they the people who were bringing this sort of attempted, what we call political...
They were very comfortable when Biden was in office as president, and these things were still happening, but those prosecutors were definitely comfortable when Biden was in office. But now that Trump's pushing the line a little bit, they get all butthurt for whatever reason. They all just quit because this is not a Biden administration anymore.
Opposition. Mayor Adams claims he complained during Joe Biden's administration and then got hit with these indictments that he said were completely false. Now, was this the same warfare that was used against President Trump with Alvin Bragg, Letitia James?
Oh, yeah.
Was this the same thing? Were these people participating in a scheme like that? And that's not where the Justice Department should be.
So one of the really crazy things about the story is that now Governor
it is a mess, though. I'll say that.
has the authority to remove Adams as mayor of New York City. What are the dynamics that go into her thinking right now on that?
I mean, I don't know her personally, but I would think that would be a very bad move for her. Eric Adams is doing his job. He complained for years about the burdens this city was...
Wow, so she does have the power to remove Eric Adams as mayor of New York. That's crazy, though. If she does that, that is definitely going to, destroy New York, obviously, because just because your subordinates, right, because that's what being a governor is, you have subordinates under you, doesn't fall in line with the agenda, so you remove him. What, for what? Because he doesn't want to have illegals in New York anymore? I mean, like, what's the reasoning for her to remove Eric Adams? Right? Because he's not going along with the agenda. That's just what it is.
Taking on with these illegal immigrants. He complained to the administration before Donald Trump's administration. And you're telling me now that she's going to remove him? Why? Because Pam Bondi, who happens to be a great friend of mine who I've known for years, she's an honest, ethical DOJ, that she's running a division and a department that is just doing their job. If they reviewed the case and said there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
Well, I could say this as a regular taxpayer and American citizen, that a deal to drop charges against Eric Adams in exchange for actually doing something about illegal immigration, millions of illegals flooding into, and not to mention tens of billions of dollars that we're spending on this.
Hey, it's okay. Excuse me. It's okay if it's a wink, wink.
Maybe not such a bad deal. Rebecca Rose Woodland, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ever since I was a G, I've been...
Yeah, so that's just a hot mess. I don't know, man. New York is just a mess. You have AOC trying to tell illegals how to handle ICE, right? And it's like, come on, bitch, really? You know, and it's like it's funny. It's funny how it is. Um, yeah, so it'd be a bad. It would be a bad move for Hochul to remove. Yeah, prosecute Hochul for aiding and abetting. Yeah, exactly. Um, Remember the danger of backing a rat into a corner. Don't be surprised by anything Hochul does. Oh yeah, definitely not gonna be surprised because if she, like I said, they're not going along with the agenda like Eric Adams is, and he's playing ball with Trump and Homan. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Hochul removes Eric Adams as a power play. And very interesting here. I mentioned this yesterday. Hey Pam, indict AOC for aiding and abetting. Exactly. Go get AOC, that bitch. All right. Um, yeah. I mean, Hochul's terrible, anyways. I mean, talking about how the subway system's safe and all that, and it's not. You know what I'm saying? Terrible. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh yeah, federal workers stunned by mass layoffs. Why? They act like it's something new because look what happened back when Clinton was president. He laid off. Oh man, he laid off a shit ton of federal workers during that time to streamline the government, and no one cried, right? And this was a Democrat president during that time. All right, Al Gore signed off on it, and they laid off tons of federal workers at the time. So I don't know why this is such a big deal. So let's see what they got to say here.
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce. More agencies announcing mass layoffs that could come as soon as this week. The IRS is the latest, set to lay off thousands of probationary workers in the middle of tax season. This is according to two sources familiar with the agency's plans, and new data already shows an unemployment spike in the district since President Trump has taken office. Nearly 4,000 workers in the city have filed for unemployment insurance. And across the country today, Tesla showrooms served as the backdrops for protests. Groups are rallying against CEO Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, which has largely ordered the layoffs. News 4's Dominique Moody has new reaction from a federal employee who's among the thousands impacted.
Our actual goal in the department that I work for focuses directly on safety. And, basically all of us were really under the impression that, what we do is very important.
Former FAA employee and disabled veteran Jason found out at the tail end of the shift yesterday that he was one of the thousands of federal workers being laid off.
The environment was kind of like everybody who was working felt like everything that they were doing was almost for no reason. They just, they didn't feel valued.
The sweeping cuts are part of the Trump administration and the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, led by Elon Musk's joint effort to shrink the size of the federal workforce. The layoffs are having a ripple effect in the nation's capital, where unemployment numbers have ticked up. According to CNBC, the district reported close to 800 jobless filings for the week ending on February 8th. A 36% increase from the prior week. The latest round of cuts affecting thousands of probationary employees who have yet to see civil service protections kick in. Sources say the IRS is expected to lay off thousands of probationary workers as tax season ramps up.
Stand up to what's going on. This is not okay.
Bill Byrne is set to host a rally on Monday to show support for federal workers.
There are many people, many vulnerable people who are going to be suffering in the coming months, perhaps even in the years. And we can all do something to help those people.
It's not yet clear how many FAA workers or IRS agents were impacted by these latest cuts. In Northwest, Dominique Moody, News 4.
Yeah, whatever, man. Fuck out of here. I mean, if government was bloated and overhired, they're going to lay them off, right? And we know that they've been on this sweep of streamlining government, right? Less government, the better. I'll take that. All right. So just saying. Something else big came out of all this here, which was Rachel Maddow. Right. So if you guys don't know, let me see here. Yeah. So Rachel Maddow falsely reported that he is a beneficiary of, yeah, there's all these cuts to the government, but yet he has a $400 million deal with the government in terms of getting a Tesla bulletproof armored vehicle contract, electric vehicle contract. All right, and that it's a deal that is still going to be on the table, and he's going to get that deal, self-serving, right, with Trump. And so when you really look into the documents and everything, it was an error, right? Which is pretty funny because she was trying to make it all like, oh man, like there's a conflict of interest here, Elon's doing this, but yeah, he's gonna get this on the back end and all this other stuff, right? And she was all happy and giggly about all that stuff, and then come to find out that she was wrong. Because that contract was signed, it just hasn't been delivered when Biden was still in office, all right? As Biden was trying to electrify the armored vehicles fleet, right? With this contract with Elon Musk, because he actually put it out there on the table, and for any companies that can produce electric vehicles, especially trucks and SUVs or whatever, that are armored, bulletproof armored vehicles. And the only one that came to the table was Elon Musk, right? So and then he signed the deal. He said, all right, I'm willing to do all that, right? But that was toward the end of last year, because in the end he's still a businessman, and he sought to take advantage of this offer put out by the Biden administration. I mean, he went for the deal. So when this was reported, Rachel Maddow thought she uncovered, something here, like, oh man, she thought she was on to something here, man, and she's on to Elon and Trump. They're so corrupt. And then come to find out, it's not even the case. And obviously, this deal is no longer in play because Trump is not about electrification of vehicles and replacing the fleet of vehicles with armored cars that are electric and all this other stuff. So yeah, sorry babe, all right, but you're wrong. And even she came on air and would not admit that she was wrong, but try to make it, I don't know how to, the way the excuse was played, it was just more like she was not trying to, say she's sorry, I was wrong. It was more like wordplay to dodge the apology, right? So let me see if I can find that footage. Very good YouTuber here / lawyer, Nate the lawyer, covered this really well. I liked how he covered this. So let's take a look at this.
Like, I bought a pair of boots.
Well, now as the top campaign donor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced.
So see how she reported, all right, armored Teslas were set to win a $400 million government contract, because he was the only one that came to the table with signing and taking this advantage of this deal, right? So which is pretty funny. So she thought she got a smoking gun here, and she thought she was, cool, and I uncovered something here. Get the fuck out of here, bitch.
It's the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units.
A few moments later,
the State Department would have issued that contract under Biden's administration. So I'm sure Rachel Maddow is going to correct that on a subsequent broadcast. I can't wait to see it.
A few moments later.
Last night, we reported on this fiscal year 2025 procurement prospectus from the U.S. State Department. It is dated December 2024 during the Biden administration. This is after the November election, but before Trump was sworn in.
So Rachel Maddow is out there spreading fake news again. Let's talk about it.
So clearly she was wrong.
All right. So this is Rachel Maddow, and she does not like Elon Musk, President Trump. She is a left-wing lunatic. Now, the ratings for MSNBC has been in quite of a slump. Half of MSNBC's viewers haven't returned since Election Day. But this still doesn't stop the propaganda machine from moving forward. Now, in the second week of February, Rachel Maddow did this report, and it was supposed to detail Elon Musk's hypocrisy. Essentially, here is the narrative she was trying to run. Elon Musk is in charge of Doge. Doge is in charge of cutting government spending, but under Trump's administration, they now are going to give Elon Musk's company Tesla a $400 million contract. So while they're cutting things like USAID, they are putting $400 million into Tesla, showing that essentially the American people are being played. Trump is paying Elon under the table. That was the story Rachel Maddow was trying to put forward. Here's the clip.
Well, now, as the top campaign donor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Since I think the only supposedly armored production vehicles Tesla makes are these hilarious trucks, this really appears to be the State Department announcing, putting in writing that it's going to spend $400 million buying these paperweights from Elon Musk. This is a line item in the latest procurement forecast for the U.S. Department of State. And isn't it great what they're doing? Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt for the president to put someone with billions of dollars in government contracts personally in charge of deciding what happens to government contracts? I mean, hopefully the State Department isn't
thought she had a
smoking
gun. She's a dumbass.
$400 million worth of
what's funny about her is that Elon doesn't need the money. He's one of the richest in the world. He doesn't need the money.
Out in the rain? But otherwise, that's obviously a super kosher use of taxpayer funds and not at all $400 million
worth
of self-dealing by the president's top campaign donor to whom he has handed the keys to the kingdom. Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Now, if you haven't noticed, there was a huge issue with this whole report. See, Musk didn't actually sign that contract under President Trump. It was signed under President Biden, because Biden, being the environmental president, wanted to move the State Department's vehicles from gas guzzlers to electric vehicles and actually put a bid out for companies to provide electric vehicles to the State Department. Here is the report.
Tesla contract is actually now on hold. Dropsite News then updated their reporting accordingly, and they also reported that the new information about how the contract came to be, they say that the acquisition plan was set in motion by the Biden administration last year year as part of a move to convert the Bureau of Diplomatic Security's fleet of roughly 3,000 armored vehicles into zero-emission electric vehicles by 2023. And in April of last year, the Bureau of Diplomatic Security...
This going green bullshit is a bunch of crap to electrify. I mean, even in California, they're trying to push to electrify California vehicles by 2035 too. And it's like, really? Come on now.
Issued a request for information to see which electric vehicle manufacturers would be interested in taking on that request. Now, according to the Trump State Department, only one company showed any interest in this contract, and that one company happened to be Tesla.
So, as you just heard, it was the Biden administration who signed this deal. It was the Biden administration who asked companies to bid. And Tesla was the only one to say, hey, we can make these armored electric vehicles. So, Biden signed a contract, Trump gets in office, and now the State Department says, hey, we already signed up to get these cars. But as you remember, in Rachel Maddow...
Well, I guess that no longer in play because... it's not necessary. It's not needed. And we all know the reliability of electric vehicles, not to knock on Elon there, but we're not about electrifying the fleet of vehicles here and anywhere. But on the other hand, electric vehicles are an option for people that want electric vehicles. We can't force it on us, which the Biden administration was trying to do. California is currently still trying to do. We got to wipe that shit out.
I was reporting the story. She made it seem like this was corruption, that Trump and his team were essentially paying Elon off by giving this $400 million contract, not telling the audience that the contract and everything actually occurred under Biden. This was Biden's plan, but it just laid over until Trump got in office. Now, Rachel Maddow has gone on and told millions of people, essentially, this is massive corruption, implying it very heavily.
And isn't it great what they're doing? Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt?
Okay, so now we're in defamation land.
Yep,
Rachel Maddow
defamation.
has heavily implying that
Slander,
Elon
defamation.
is corrupt, and this is the proof of their corruption, this $400 million contract that actually started under Biden. Biden was the one who wanted this deal, not Trump. That is important. Now, Rachel Maddow has to put that in front of the audience, has to tell the audience that fact, because if she doesn't, she could be looking at a defamation suit from Elon. But you also have to understand this too. She can't now make it seem like they weren't corrupt, because then it would make it seem like, hey, Rachel, you don't really do your research. So listen to how Rachel Maddow tries to fix the situation.
I will
tell
go
me
after her
if
for
this
that
is enough
defamation.
to convince the audience that, hey, this Tesla deal wasn't really anything to do with
she
Trump.
didn't.
It was Biden.
Last night, we reported on this fiscal year 2025 procurement prospectus from the U.S. State Department. It is dated December 2024 during the Biden administration. This is after the November election, but before Trump was sworn in. And we reported on this last night because the single most expensive line item in the whole prospectus for the State Department's prospective purchases in 2025 was a $400 million line item for, quote, armored Tesla production units. $400 million worth of armored Teslas.
When I tore my meniscus going against Gabe Souza, all the other knee braces.
Tell me more, edgelord of government efficiency. Last night, as we and numerous other news organizations reported on Elon Musk's company Tesla being in line for what appeared to be a gigantic payout from the U.S. State Department, during our show, in fact, that line item...
So she tried to make it look like, hey, I'm not the only one that's reported this. Try to not tie direct fault, even though she was defaming it out there in TV land, right, in cable land, and internet land. All right. I mean, this got my attention. I didn't see it really anywhere else except coming from her.
Was changed on the State Department website so that it no longer says Tesla. And they took away the part that says Tesla. They changed it so it now says armored electric vehicles. Now, the State Department prospectus did not reflect a contract to Tesla for $400 million. Rather, this was a prospectus showing that the government, the State Department, was interested in making this kind of a purchase for that kind of a price tag. And that, of course, would be a huge deal for Tesla. That would be a really big deal if the State Department went ahead with that plan. It's like an important thing to know about what Tesla had been expecting they might be in line for from the government in fiscal year 2025, particularly while the CEO of Tesla is at this very moment moonlighting at a weird quasi-governmental job in which he is cutting huge swaths of spending and the personnel that makes up what we call the U.S. government.
Now, this was a master class in spin. She started off with giving you the information, but hiding it essentially. Doesn't tell you that this occurred under the Biden administration. Says that, hey, there's really no contract as of yet, but the fact that he's even being mentioned in line with this contract is some sort of corruption. But she never mentions, not once, that this was a Biden initiative. They signed up Tesla. They asked for bids. Tesla was the only car company that said we'll do it. And Biden okayed the Teslas move forward. So none of those facts hit. But Rachel Maddow has spun it to make it now you're like, I don't know what's going on, or hey, there's $400 being spent, and other news organizations reported on it. But they can't be honest. And this is why people don't trust MSNBC. She can't just be honest. I made a mistake. I thought this was a payoff from Trump, but it obviously happened under Biden. So now I know if you're one of my liberal friends, you're going to tell me, hey, Nate, you're a conservative.
Yeah, so very good coverage of how Nate the lawyer here covered, the story and then the spin story once you found out that, hey, that wasn't the complete truth about what actually happened. I mean, there's a big difference between Biden doing it and Trump doing it, but I don't see Trump fulfilling that. I just don't see it. I just can't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. No. But this was a big story that came out over, in the past couple days, with the reporting from Rachel Maddow, MSNBC. Obviously, MSNBC is garbage anyways, because people like Joy Reid, who's like a race fearmonger, and and shit like that, and the network sucks, right? Just like CNN sucks. All these liberal stations are garbage. All right, so I just wanted to just kind of talk about all that. Can't wait to see what comes to California. All right, so we got that big mess going on right now in New York. All right, ICE still going around making these deportation arrests for illegals. And to me, you're already a criminal if you're crossing the border illegally, regardless. So that's where it's at there. And dealing with Rachel Maddow slandering and defaming of Elon here. She truly thought she had a smoking gun, like a dumb bitch that she is. So I thought it was funny stuff here. Mass layoffs from the Trump administration. I mean, when you really look at it, excuse me, my throat's itching. When you really look at it, like I said, go back in time. Look at Clinton when they laid off a massive chunk of their workforce because they're trying to streamline government at that time too. But it's funny how when Clinton did it, it's not so bad, but when Trump does it, it's so bad, right? Anyhow, what's terrible is actually Obama's run as president. I might have to talk about that one day in the video about why Obama's presidency was actually very bad for us. To me, it's worse than we all thought. All right, so we'll talk about that one day. Anyhow, I just wanted to give you guys this particular update here. Thank you. Subscribe to the bell icon. Like I said, I'm on Rumble. I'm on YouTube. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next one.